Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. This is the iBUG Android Insight Call. Here, we talk about Android. So, this is a platform where you can ask questions about the Android devices, Android platform, whether you have a phone, a cell phone, Alexa device, a tablet, we here, the forum is open to speak about or ask questions about any device that is running on the Android platform. So I just want to say welcome. I am one of your Zoom hosts. I am Ava Caruth, and my co-host is Hershey. Want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, Ava. Welcome, everybody. Name's Hershey from Central Florida.
Yes. So, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. We're on the Whew, I am so off right now. Um, so we are iBug today. So we have a lot of iBug has a lot of events that come up during the month. To stay on top of what's going on, please go to ibugtoday.com where you can sign up to get the email list of everything that's go on during the month for iBug and what they are hosting. What's coming up right now next is Thursday night is Trekkie night. It's on the same Zoom link. And then Friday night is the Friday night movie. And it is JFK 1991. The movie starts at 8 o'clock, but they welcome you in at 7:30 for the social time. All right, so all our calls are being recorded. So if you want to find out more or listen to previous sessions, please go to ibugtoday.com, go under the iBug Android Insight tab is one place you can find us. Hershey, you want to mention the others?
Absolutely. So if you go to YouTube and type in iBug Today in the search, you'll find our channel, and we have a playlist that go through each of our shows. So if you're interested in our show specifically, you'll find a whole playlist for Android Insight, the iBug Android Insight call.
All right, so I want to welcome everybody. Let's just go around and let people introduce themselves. Let us know who you are. How'd you hear about us and what type of Android device you have? All right, so let's let everybody do a little introduction.
Hi, I'm Shay. I'm from Everett, Washington, and I have a Galaxy Tab 8A and what is the phone? Is an A32 and a whole bunch of other stuff in the house, Alexa and things.
Awesome, awesome. Welcome, Shay.
So nice to be here. Happy New Year and happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm Jen O'Donnell from Columbia, Tennessee. I have a Samsung Note 9, and I heard about this from a friend of mine who is in the National Federation of the Blind, the Nashville chapter.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some of your new questions here. Anybody else want to introduce themselves? Just let us know where you're from, what kind of device you have, and anything else that you want us to know.
Hi, this is Renee from the Cleveland area. I have a Samsung tablet and I have a Galaxy Note 8, which I'm hoping to replace with a Pixel this year.
Awesome, excellent. Well, welcome to our party tonight?
This is Shree from Springfield, Virginia,
Hey,
and
what's going on, Trey?
I don't have any Android devices, but I do have a lot of Amazon devices. So just here to listen.
Sounds good. Thank you for joining us.
Richard from New York. I have the smart Android and I have the Alexa, and I got 2 new Androids as well.
That's awesome. Well, welcome back, Richard. Nice to have you again.
Oh, I love it. I can, because I gotta transfer something and I gotta figure it out, and this is the best place I know, and I like being here. So thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to introduce themselves? Well, I guess I'll just do me. I'm that one guy from Florida, Hershey, the co-host, the co-facilitator. Devices that I own or use are my, let's see, my Pixel 4 XL. We were just talking about it before the show started. It's retired. And then over there, Pixel 6 Pro. My Note 9, I still have. I still use it daily. Actually, it does me with other things I need it for, alarms and communication device, so to speak. And then I have my Samsung S22 Ultra. That is my daily phone of choice, or the phone that I use. So I guess mostly my ecosystem lives in the Samsung world, but dibble dabble in the Pixel here and there too. I guess the tablet hasn't bit me yet, so I don't have a tablet. Maybe I should get a Fold, so I would have best of both worlds. But maybe you guys have a Fold. Maybe you could tell me something, or I don't know. But if anybody else wants to introduce themselves, please feel free to let us know. Or if not, I guess, Ava, do you just want to jump into the questions?
Well, I am Ava Caruth. I'm the host as well, your Zoom host. And I'm in Houston, so I own a Samsung Note and I own several Alexa devices as well as a few Google devices. I own a Fire tablet, a Galaxy tablet, Samsung Galaxy tablet as well. So, all right. So, if there's anybody else that would like to introduce themselves, we welcome you. If not, then we will go ahead and open the floor for any questions, comments that you may have.
Ava, it's Mandy
Yes, Mandy.
from Monroe, Ohio. That's close to Cincinnati, Ohio. I have quite a few Google Home Minis around the house. I have an Amazon Echo, pretty old one, but it's still kicking. And I have a Chromebook and a Samsung tablet.
All
That one's
right.
pretty old too, but it still works. It'll still run some things.
Hey, I'm with you. Until mine shut down, it still works. All
Very
right.
true.
Well, welcome. Yes. All right. Anybody else would like to introduce themselves? Okay. Any questions or comments now?
This is Shree.
Yes, Sherry.
So I was looking at potentially getting a Samsung A tablet, the A series. And my question is, if I got something that's got a low memory, but it's got an expansion slot, will I run into any problems? And since, like I said, I'm not an Android user, when I get the unit, will it be relatively straightforward to set it up?
Yes, it is. The thing is, yeah, it is relatively straightforward. So let me throw it out there for anybody else in the audience who could help answer his question. Okay, well, yes, it is relatively straightforward to set it up. Especially once your accessibility is on. It's just that when you put the expanded card in, for the apps that you will be using with that, you do need to go under the app, under apps, and make sure you tell it to use the SD card, okay, for any storage on that end. That way it won't take up what little internal memory you have.
This is Sri.
Yes, Cherie.
So can I be specific with the apps, or is there certain apps that definitely have to reside on the device versus on the external? Since the one that I looked at was like a 32 gigs, and I'm a little worried about getting something that low.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I could get like a relatively large expansion slot, go pretty high on the expansion slot and just make sure the apps were all loaded through that. But I wasn't sure if I can do that.
No, yeah, there are certain ones. And I did the same thing. I went low on my memory on the internal, and I had my I had to remember to go throw everything over. So I do like my Kindle, I do Bards, certain apps like that. You really have to go look in when you go under settings and go under apps, default apps. You have to go down your list of apps and look and see which ones will allow you to do it. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Next, anybody else?
Renee.
Yes, Renee.
Um, I sometimes use the accessibility um feature on my Samsung phone and on my Samsung tablet, where you can choose what it can do, and I have the two things in there are like select a speech and reading mode. And I've noticed it has been a little quirky lately. First, I noticed it with my tablet, which is a newer one, my Samsung tablet, which I got for Christmas, that um, it didn't stay with whatever it used to be. If I selected select to speak, it would stay at that. And when I pushed it, it would automatically pop up. That was what was happening. And I could select whatever I wanted it to speak. But now it seems like I have to select whatever I want within the menu every single time. And then lately on my uh, Samsung Galaxy Note 8 phone, I've noticed it doing that off and on lately also. And I was thinking maybe that's because it's gotten so old. Maybe it's getting a little quirky, but I also noticed it on my new tablet. I was just wondering if anybody knew, is there a setting somewhere maybe that I need to change to make it default to whatever the last choice was? If anybody's familiar with that.
This is Kevin.
Yes, Kevin.
It sounds like you might have to go through and reset it up. You might even have to reset. I don't know what the Galaxies call it, even though I have a Galaxy, but with Android, it would Pixel or something, it would be the Android accessibility suite, but you might have to go reset it. But one of the problems is probably that you have more than one item in there, and so that's why the menu comes up. But if you only had one item in there, then it would do that thing every time. So if it was just doing the last item that you'd used before, that probably was broken. and now it's been fixed, but you probably got used to it working that way. But that sounds
Okay.
like that was not because the excessive, it's a menu, so it's supposed to pull up items, a menu of items.
That actually makes sense now because the newer Samsung always has done that. And I always have had both of them on there. But my phone, I used to only have it just for select to speak. But when people talked about the reading mode, I added that in there so that I could choose whichever one I wanted. And now it makes me have to choose. So I guess that's so now what you're telling me now that makes sense to me. So I guess I just have to get used to that.
Now there is, and I don't know if it'll work in conjunction with the accessibility menu, but there is, if you go into the settings for the reading mode, there is a way to put a, um, you know, a icon in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, everywhere, anytime you have an app open. So it might be, next to the accessibility menu or above it, or it might tell
Hmm.
you that it can't do it. I don't know, but there is an icon just for the reading mode.
Oh, okay. Because on the phone, there's not a whole lot of room. As it is, sometimes I think I'm hitting the accessibility button. I hit the back button. I do that all the time on my phone.
Yes.
On the tablet, there's more room. I could see that working more on the tablet. On the phone, it's a little crowded. Okay,
Now, another
so
thing that you can do is instead of using that accessibility menu, Samsung has two shortcuts. So, especially if you're not a talkback user, you could probably load holding the volume up and volume down for select to speak, and then you could do volume up and the side key or the power key for the reading mode.
oh, well, I yeah, the sub the but I use the standard one for talkback, the volume down and
Okay.
the
Oh
power
yeah,
key
you
is to
have a
turn on talkback on and off. I use it
yeah.
sometimes, but okay, I have to look into that. Some of the shortcut keys, see if I can maybe do one of those. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else with a question, comment?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Marvel. I was trying to figure out how to get it off the mute. I have been clicking everything, but I have a headset on. But I'm with Blind Services. I'm here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee,
Okay.
and I use an iPhone. And I do have a Kindle, but I would just like to learn more about, this.
Okay. More about the Android?
And I am glad to be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
This is Richard.
Yes, Richard.
One, I have two new Androids, and they're very brand new. I don't know if anybody's gotten either one of them, but one is called the Ryza, Android Rosa Ryza, and I don't know if anybody has got it, but the volume and the speaker to me is very poor. You can turn this thing up to max. The volume, accessibility volume, the ring volume, just every single volume I went through and turned it up to max. And it's still very, very low for that kind of setting. I don't know if anybody has that phone and they are experiencing that.
Okay. So let's open that up to the floor. Okay.
This is Shree.
Yes, Sherry.
I'm just going to take a wild jab at this one because I really don't know. But Richard, do you know if you have this issue, if you put like a headphone on, does the volume seem low?
It's everything. I mean, no matter what I've done, it's just low. And I had even called them about it, and they had asked me if something was covering the speaker. And I don't like the position of the speaker because the speaker on the phone is literally facing out the back. And when you're holding the phone, when you're holding the phone, the palm of your hand is going to cover the speaker. But headset or no, it's just very low volume. So I don't know if I probably just got a bad phone or that's just in general what that phone sounds like.
This is Shree.
Yes, Sherry.
So Richard, is it a Bluetooth headset or are you doing it with a wired headset?
Yeah, I got the wire plug-in.
Yeah, I'm not. Sorry, my friend. Don't know.
Yeah, and I had asked them if, has anybody called about this, like the volume people have called in about the volume settings and the trouble of this being, and granted it's brand new. I mean, this is a phone that just came out this year, and so to correct the problem, they gave me another phone, and that one came out this year too. It's the Android Moxie, and that one sounds a little better. It's higher in quality and volume, and the speaker's positioned in the same spot, but it's got a very higher volume. The thing I'm having with that one is when I go to transfer my stuff over to data, it says to do the Wi-Fi connection, which I do, and then my new phone, it tells me find shock volume 990 or 890 button on my old Android phone and push that button. Where would I find that button, the shock value 890 button where would that be?
This is Kevin. What is your old phone?
The old phone is the Android, the smart Android, which that's a brand new one too. That came out January of last year.
I have to say, I thought I knew a little bit about every phone that exists, but you just said 3 things that I've never heard of before. So I don't know. What are you trying to transfer?
It's to activate it with the apps, phone numbers, and everything. You can transfer over to the new phone. I got as far as that part. It says to connect to Wi-Fi, so I put in my Wi-Fi network, put in the password for that, and accepts it. It says to open up the Google app on the smart Android, so I push the button, open the Google app on my old phone. It says searching and finding it on the Android Moxie. And then when it finds it and it connects to it, that's when my Android Moxie will turn over and say, on your old Android device, find shock volume 890 button and push that. So there's a shock volume 890 button or something I got to look for on the smart Android, and I have no idea where it is. I never even heard it myself.
So can you exit that setup?
Oh, yes, I can exit that setup.
So if you have your contacts backed up to Gmail, I wouldn't use that setup process. I would get out of that, sign into your Gmail account that you use, your primary Gmail account, and let Google handle all that. And it will actually, unless you tell it not to, it will actually start downloading all of your apps and stuff for you. But your contacts, if they're saved to your Gmail, will automatically come to that phone without any of that extra stuff. So that's why I was asking you exactly what you're trying to transfer. So I usually do a clean install. I don't ever have the apps come automatically. I install them one by one. But even if you do tell it not to install them automatically, you can go to the Play Store and you can still do a full install of the apps. You can do it later. But I would let Google handle the setup instead of the whatever tool they have on the phone, because once you sign into that Gmail, you're going to get everything back that you've ever had on any phone.
Oh, okay. Because there is two different setups I noticed, and it was on both the Ryza, which I can't. That's the volume one that has very low volume, so I'm not going to. But the Moxie, they both have similar setup. When I start up mode, it says the copy and transfer data, which is the Wi-Fi, and then there's a whole nother starting setup mode, which just says starting mode.
Yes, and keep the Gmail and everything logged in, and as soon as you get all that set up, install the Google Find My Device app on any and all of your devices, and then that'll also make any other phones or anything that you add go smoother also. And just always let Google handle the process of setting up a new phone.
No, I said don't go into the Wi-Fi setting. Go into where it just says start up mode. Go into that part.
Well, go to where it says, when it says log into accounts, when it asks you what is your Gmail address and your password, and you put in that, then usually, and I'm mainly dealing with Samsung and Google phones, but I've seen this on other phones. Usually the Google process will start prompting you for certain things, or it might just start working in the background. But when you sign into that Gmail account, you're going to have your contacts and also make sure that you go into your backup and restore and activate the automatic backup, so that'll also get your text messages, contacts, and all that as well. So just let Google handle as much of the process as possible.
Now, all of that's backed up, so I don't have a problem there. So I just will have to stay away from Wi-Fi setup mode. Like I said, just go into startup mode, go into that one. Because the Wi-Fi setup mode, that's where it keeps wanting this, password for the Wi-Fi and that shock volume thing. So I have to go into setup mode, because setup mode doesn't ask for all that.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Kevin, this is Renee. I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said you choose to do your install of everything one by one. Is there a reason why you do that of all your apps? Is it just because you trying not to bring as much stuff over, or you just think it does a better install when you do it that way?
It's much more tedious and everything, but I do it just in case there's some kind of problem. So if I do it one by one and then my phone starts to do something a little weird or something, I know just which app did it. You know what? And it's never been a problem before, so I probably should stop. But I do it because I've had phones because I test a lot of apps. So I've had phones where I've had 300 app installs, so I stopped that process quickly and then just install, So I just go for my Lookout and, 3 or 4 other apps first, and then I start going slowly and then adding Facebook and stuff like that, and just to see if something causes a problem.
Okay.
This is Shree.
Go
Yes,
ahead,
sure.
Drew.
Yeah, I would also agree with Kevin on that. Even for me, whether it's whatever machine I currently have or use, there's a saying, garbage in, garbage out. So if you have garbage in your original machine and you bring it to another machine, you're bringing garbage in. So, it's always best to try and do a clean install whenever you get a new device.
Thank you for that.
So I just recently got a tablet, and then if I wanted to go redo my install, because I have noticed a little few weird things, would I just do a reset on it and just start all over again?
Yeah, you just do a factory reset. Um, the only times that it could cause a problem, but you can just choose not to back up from your restore, is if you have a restore point or you have a backup that you can restore from. So you might want to wait to do the restore from backup so you see what the problem is. So
Okay.
yeah, you can just go down to system. I think it's system also on Samsung. I have to check and see, but that's going to say backup and restore. You can go in there and do a factory reset.
Okay. Because it's like I've noticed there's a lot of it seems like a lot of memories used up, and I'm like, why? And maybe it's because I didn't do something the right way. I don't have that much stuff on there, so it was kind of weird to
Yeah,
see that.
apps
So,
start to collect data at some point too. So you can also go into go into your all apps and then go to that individual app. Something like the assistant. It can sometimes have up 2 or 3 gigs of data in there because it's all of your searches, sometimes even the ones that you're doing on computers and stuff, but it has all of your searches. Every time you tell it turn on the lights, turn them off, or shut
oh,
the door or whatever. And so sometimes it's just good to go in there and just do a clear storage. You do have to do a little setup. Once it finishes with that, you have to do set some of the things back up, but it should keep your voice model and all that other stuff. But sometimes you have to tap a few things to get back to where you were. But it's just good to go in there and clear it out sometime.
okay.
Appreciate that answer. All right. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts they want to know?
This is Richard.
Go ahead, Richard.
For the lady there, I think her name is Renee. She's things are getting a little foggy for her with it's acting funny. Like he had mentioned, yeah, you might want to clear some things out and delete. Because I found out that problem with me. Sometimes things will act weird and act funny, and the searches. You might be searching for something, and you're on that site, and it's what you're wanting to look for, and it is what you're searching for. However, I've witnessed and noticed certain things can crawl in underneath those searches that are kind of like links, they say, and advertisements they toss in, and those are the things that are getting in there. You don't know they're sneaking in, and it ends up building in history, data, in your search history deal. It gets crowded and clogged up. And the other part of it is, yes, it's under systems, because my Android is under system. Then it says backup button, and it says where you can turn on your backups and what you can back it up to, and restore and factory restore. It would be in the system settings.
Thank you for that. Anybody have any other questions that they want to ask or want to know more about with the Android operating system?
My name's Jen, and
Hey, Jen.
I am listening to all of you, and you are way over my head. I am a beginner pretty much with Android. And right now, all I'm using my phone for is text messages, calls, and I use the dictation feature at this time. And I only plan right now on using it for calls texts and maybe some of the apps like for labeling or maybe Be My Eyes, Audible. I don't plan right now using it for email or anything like that. And I know I have had people telling me to get an iPhone. They said it's a lot easier to use when you can't see and blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, I am just really resistant to the iPhone. I've heard that it's very sensitive when you touch the different keys. And I'm having a hard enough time on Android trying to figure out, where's the icon for the keypad and just the answer icon. I'm pretty much am in the right areas, but I am pretty much a beginner and I'm trying to decide, do I want to stay with an Android, go with an iPhone? If I go with an Android, I don't know which models to get. So I'm just looking for information.
May I just ask one more additional question? Are you coming to it from a low vision perspective or coming from a screen reader perspective only?
Screen reader. I have
Okay.
no sight. I only have
Okay.
light perception. So
Okay. So let's see if we definitely have some amazing folks here on the call that might be able to answer a few parts of your question there. Does anybody want to help here with Ms. Jen's question?
This is Kevin. Which phone do you have now?
I have the Samsung Note 9. It was a refurbished phone sent to me by AT&T.
So, well, of course, I'm going to be the one to tell you to stick with Android. But my second thing will be to get a newer phone that will allow you probably have some of these features, but that will give you a newer version of TalkBack and a lot of features. You got multi-finger gestures and a lot of things that are very convenient, and even some now with the new TalkBack that are quite similar to the iPhone, but still different enough to be Android. So you could go for something like, so you have the Note 9. So the equivalent of that today would be something like the Galaxy S23 or Galaxy S22. Those are Samsung phones.
Okay.
If you wanted to go more of the budget route, you could do something like the Pixel 6a, which is a Google phone. That's going to be pure Android. You're going to get a lot of the features first with the Google phone, both Android features and accessibility features. Or you could go for the Pixel 7 or the Pixel 7 Pro, which are the flagships under the Google. So I would go Samsung or Google. You could even get away with something like the A53 on the Samsung side, and that's kind of like their mid-range budget model. But to go from where you are to the current version, it would be the S23 or the S22, because you don't need the screen real estate. So that's why I'm not recommending the Ultra.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much for that answer, Kevin. And I kind of second basically all of his choices there, because in front of me I have a Note 9 as well. The difference with Note 9, to kind of rewind back to how that might become like an iPhone, is the screen reader voice assistant that it has on there mimics what VoiceOver used to be. So if you only use the screen reader, certain things like copying text, it's trying to remember those specific texts and such that. What I could offer you here is, if you wanted to join our mailing list, I can send you some text that I wrote out that goes to that phone specifically, or with voice assistant specifically. So it might just make it easier in the meanwhile till you figure out what, getting the S22 or the S23 that just came out. And to join the mailing list would be to send us a blank email to iBUG Android Insight plus subscribe at groups.io, and that way you'll join the mailing list, and I could go ahead and try to get you some more information that I have written up a while back that still matches that phone. And with all these phones and operating systems, and just to go back to the basics, when we say stick to Samsung or stick to this, it's just because where menus and things, the familiarity stays within that ecosystem. So
Mhm.
on Samsung, the settings are swipe down on the notifications and you go to your top right corner and bam, settings is there. You go to your Pixel phone, you got to swipe down on your notifications twice, and it's just a little bit of difference, but it's still kind of the same. And it's just getting used to those patterns. Once you figure out those patterns, using the screen reader with the device becomes seamless. The apps like Be My Eyes, as you mentioned, is wonderful to have because you get the live human on board. And with apps such as Lookout, which is kind of the vice versa to Seeing AI on iOS platform. So that offers you document scanning, it offers you currency scanning, and even your to look at your environment. I think explore mode, and
Okay.
then there's also Envision AI, similar. It's free. So these are like the couple two apps that are free. It's more so of when you start using the device, you'll start learning it. So first things first, you turn on the phone and you want to get the screen reader on. So to remember, to hit volume up and volume down together and hold it
Mhm.
down to 3 to 5 seconds, and that's always going to be your magic. Turn on talkback, turn on screen reader mode, and then once you get through that process, it's kind of just going through what you wanted to do for you after that. So if you don't want to go through the tutorial, you back out of the tutorial, and then you start setting up your phone. It asks you, hey, what do you want to do? I want to get the phone going on the road. Well, can I get to the internet? Okay, let's get Wi-Fi on. So you sign into your Wi-Fi, and then it's like, hey, do you have an old phone that you want me to grab stuff from you? Or do you just want to start fresh? What do you want me to do? So it's the phone is basically asking these questions and multiple screens, of course, but
Mhm.
you're just going through this process of setting that up. And once
Okay.
you do that, it's your YouTube account is connected to it. You have a Gmail account so you could email people. You have 15 gigabytes of storage that you could throw stuff in the cloud or videos. So
Mhm.
you could come back to it. If you had a couple of videos you took with a Pixel phone and then you took with your Note 9 phone and you want to go grab the phone from the Note 9, you want to grab that information, you just go to the cloud, grab it back down. And you can mimic and have the same data from your old phone with your Note 9 if you don't want to sell it. So both devices are good to, excuse me, have. It's just going to be what a budget affords you.
Mhm. Mhm. Because I use the dictation feature right now, how hard is it to learn how to actually type a text message using the keyboard?
Okay, and this is Hershey again. I've been bad manners. I haven't been saying who I am, and the process is pretty nice. What I have leaned into using Gboard, and I know some people use the built-in Samsung keyboard that comes with Samsung phones, and then they'll use the Gboard dictation engine, as they call it. Um, it's not a bad idea to do that if you're comfortable with it, but I think that's meant more for people with low vision that it kind of suits them. But for me, I like Gboard because of the way I could interact with the keyboard, and then dictation wise, it does a better job. I feel at almost getting everything correct.
Mhm.
And so for dictation, I like it for that. But if you're into dictation and if you're into the screen reader side, I'm just kind of thinking through just now as you're saying this. The Pixel phone might be a better choice because its dictation process is a little bit better, because you could say on the phone, send text message, for example, and it knows, it's smart enough to know that, okay, I just said, hey, I'm gonna be late. There's a Daytona 500 race going on outside. Period. Send. Okay, so when I just said send, even it would know that I didn't say send. It's gonna say, okay, I'm sending whatever I just said to that said person. So
Mhm.
the Pixel does give you that opportunity to have the newest and greatest from Google, because that's who creates, Android.
Mhm.
So there is that kind of upper hand there, but it's not to say Samsung isn't innovative with how they deliver stuff to you, and it feels a little bit less cluttered. And I don't know, with having low vision, the screens just feel much more brighter and vibrant.
Okay, this is Ava. You asked about typing with the
Yeah.
keyboard if you're doing a text message.
Well, when I've listened to other calls, Zoom calls about Android, they would talk about um, just the wording that they would use is it would bring up on their phone, I guess, a keyboard that they would use to type their text message, because they weren't dictating it. They were actually able to type in. That's what it sounded like to me. Like they were actually somehow a keyboard would come up on their phone and they
There
would
is a
be
Google
typing.
Assistant. You
Okay.
could, I
Well,
guess, type there, right, Ava?
yeah, but I'm gonna put that out to the community because I know Kevin is an instructor, so I want to give someone else a little chance to answer before I ask you another question. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So, anybody has any comments or helpful suggestions?
This is Shri.
Yes, Sheree.
I just want to make a comment. I'm very proud to hear what you're doing as you're learning. We all started where you started, and I appreciate your effort in learning what you're doing. And I'm encouraging you not to stop learning. Continue to learn. Don't just be settled with the things that you're working on now. Take the time to learn just one thing. Maybe
Mhm.
tomorrow, try and just learn to do one simple thing, and then continue to the next day to learn something new. And then you'll be surprised in a month or so, you'll be saying wow to yourself to see how far you've gotten. And all of us, even the most expert person here, we're always learning, because we never know everything. So we're continuously evolving and learning and learning and learning. And
Mhm.
for me, I make it a mission every day. I try to learn something new, because you're never going to be satisfied with learning everything. And there's no race. This is not a race for you to come to the finish line before any of us. You finish that line at your pace, enjoy the journey getting to that finish line, which in the world of technology, it never ends, right? Because
Right.
next year something else will come up, and so on and so on. But enjoy that journey, enjoy the moment of learning something. And I'm really proud to hear where you're at, and I hope you continue to learn.
I will have no choice. So,
Yeah, no,
so
that's true.
but like you said, the technology is always changing. So you've got to keep learning with what's out there.
Everything you learn, it'll make one more step easier in your life, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
and and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Sri. That's
All right.
absolutely, we definitely want to encourage you.
All right. This is Ava. My question to you, do you type right now? Do you use a computer keyboard?
Yes.
Okay, well then you're good. To because I manually type all my text messages, short ones. Okay,
Mm. Okay.
and I get into a little long ones. But once you go into messages and you find whether you're replying or sending a new message, once you get to the swipe till you get to the edit box, whether you're in for the phone number or the message, you will double tap that edit box and the keyboard will pop up at the bottom of your screen. The keyboard, now you have two choices. You can either do what's called touch typing or standard typing. And that's what you would end up setting up under accessibility. Mine is set to touch typing. So your finger stays on the keyboard until you find the letter you want. You lift it up and it types it. And
Okay.
the standard is you can lift your finger up and touch around the keyboard. When you find the letter, it comes into focus and then you double tap. But the keyboard on the phone is the same keyboard that's on your computer. So if you know your computer keyboard, it's
Mm-hmm.
set up the same way. ASDF is on the left, JKL semicolon is on the right.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could just practice with typing, because usually before I even I prefer before my students would go to using dictation or anything, I like them to learn how to type first, because there are times you can't really do dictation in some things, or then you have to go back and edit your dictation because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes things doesn't come out the way you
So
want
if
it.
I say to the dictation, Android Insight iBUG, okay, iBUG Android Insight plus subscribe at groups.io, it won't type it in.
It will, but it won't. The at sign will
Uh-huh.
be AT.
Oh man.
It will not be the at sign symbol. That's
Makes
where
sense.
that would be the problem. You'd have to go back and retype that in, backspace and do that. But that's what I would normally tell people is to practice with, because your keyboard, as long as you can type, you can use the keyboard on the phone because you know
Okay.
the keyboard. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This is Richard.
Yes, Richard.
And also with the typing and so forth, if she has also the Google, hey Google, if that is on your phone, you're talking to somebody that is just like you were. I'm just starting off with Android. Surprisingly, it's not even a full year for me. And it will be a full year that I've been using Android coming up in late to mid-April of this year. And I'm the same way. I got next to nothing of sight, so it has to talk to me. And so if you have the Hey Google, and if you're going to just do a quick message to anybody, like a text message to anybody, what is
Mm-hmm.
also good is you can just say, Hey Google, message, and then say who you want to message if it's in your contact, and you can speak it out. Such as what Ava said, though, if you're going to use anything of these picture emoji deals or anything of that is like a colon or apostrophes or whatever, I don't think that will be an issue. If it's just a simple sentence, period, question, it'll do that for you. But if you're going to
Mm-hmm.
do these hearts and stuff, it won't do any of that. And you can do the same thing with emails. If you have an email, you can go right to email, open it, go down your contacts who you want to email, and go right to voice activation
Mm-hmm.
and send out a quick email message to who you want. I've done it. And I really got to say, I'm glad I stuck with it. And I heard you say that it's like sensitive, it's touch sensitive. Yes, I found that out with my Android. You got to be careful. It is really touchy, but keep the enthusiasm. I mean, it is amazing with Android, and it is exciting. And like Shree said, keep going. I did. I stuck with it. It's going to be a year, and Android is working out for me awesome. And if there is any issues, here we are. Get on this meeting, and that's what I said at the beginning. I love this meeting because if I had any issues or any problems, we can talk you right through it.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you there. So if anybody else has any questions, or if you still have questions, please feel free to let us know.
This is Kevin.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I just wanted to say that if I don't know how long you've been blind or if you know Braille or not, but there's also Braille screen input that you can use, which some people are really, really good at. So that's another option. But
Not
one
me.
phone, but so even if you're not a Braille reader, a lot of people can learn the keystrokes for the Braille screen input. So that can make things go smoothly. But another phone that we always neglect to recommend that is catered to blind people is you could also look at something like the Blind Shell Classic 2, which has buttons and navigation keys and an assistant button on the side, like I think the Samsung Note has. But so that one's one that you could use, and it has IRA built-in, Lookout, which is the identification app and stuff like that. So
Okay.
they're adding features all the time. It has Bard now. So that's something that you could look into, and that would be, you just take the parts that you want, as you want. So you can start with your phone calls and your messages and all that. And then if you want to go into Facebook and things like that, they're there too. But you can stick to just what you're comfortable with, but at least you have those navigation keys and stuff like that to get started, and then you can graduate to something else with all touchscreen maybe later.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sorry if we kind of overwhelmed you with all these choices. I know there's plenty. But any other questions, thoughts?
This is Ava. I want to thank Kevin for mentioning the blind shell phone because, yeah, that is a great alternative for, especially for someone who's new coming into the Android platform or even just new to a smartphone. It's a great introduction that you can get used to it, and it makes it a little bit simpler as well.
Yes, I've heard of it. I was on the Blind Life website and they demonstrated that. But with all the different Android phones out there, I wasn't sure which was the best to use right now.
Hmm.
This is Hershey. So as far as best, worst, this, that, the other, the budget, if we got, Shri kind of started off with a question that was really interesting that, looking at if you have lower memory, what does memory mean or what does these traces mean? I would say if we're looking at who makes the cake, it's Google, right? So the baker is Google. Their cheapest phone is about $400, give or take. Certain uh, sales stuff might drop it down and trade in and this, not and the other. And the Pixel 7 or 6A, I think that's about that much. Pixel 7 just came out a month or two ago in the fall. So, of course, it just depends on your mobile carrier, right? If they're going to give you a good deal, you could try that to start off, and you'll know that you'll be able to keep that phone for at least 4 years, 5 years.
Right.
And you want to kind of, that's how way I look at it personally, just because I don't have money to just keep going at a device. And Note 9 is retired for me personally, so I had to move on. Talkback is all changed, so I'm not even going to confuse you by saying this, the terminology. It doesn't matter. When you get a new device, it's going to do a lot of things for you. It's going to help you read some quick documents or things that food labels such as maybe, or it might give you a book or something as you mentioned with Audible, and all of that is there. And these days the phones come in a 128 gig setup anyway, so you have quite the storage. I still say go for more 256 because you might get a little Bard crazy and yep, save this book up, I'm going to read this later. So at least you have the storage. You don't have to look back. You don't have to squirm with having a little 32 gig storage phone. It's fine to use, but what happens is you start installing apps. Now these apps get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's like 3 apps and you're done. And it's like, I can't. I don't want to delete that picture. I don't. And so then you get bottlenecked. So
Mhm.
it depends on your budget. If $400 is that, go splash into it. You're not gonna lose anything from it. You're just gonna be stable that the phone is gonna give you life for 4 to 5 years. And same thing with Samsung. They all offer 4 to 5 years security and operating system and all of that. So you just gotta. That's the way I look at it. Rather than I don't mind the blind shell stuff, but then how long is it going to be supported? What operating system is supported? So then
Mhm.
I'm reliable on their schedule. So that's the only other aspect that I look at that I just don't like recommending it right off. It's not a bad idea of a phone, but I just remember when Android was a little itty bitty baby, and here we are. So,
Mhm.
but if you have any other questions, keep asking, and we'll be more than happy to clarify anything that you want. And if anybody else even don't feel shy to unmute and just ask a question.
I've also heard that support for Androids, and I don't know if it was specifically Samsung or what, but if you would call the number for support, that it wasn't that great. They didn't get back to you if they weren't there or whatever the case was. Has anybody had any issues with that?
Anybody have some thoughts to that?
This is Kevin. That might be true for, I don't know what's going on with Samsung. They used to be very responsive, but if you use the Google specialized help through Be My Eyes, or some people choose to use it through Gmail,
Mhm.
they're very responsive, very interactive. They're there. So I like to use it through Be My Eyes because I'm actually talking to a person. I can hear them typing down what my concern is. I don't know when they check those emails or how often. I do know people that have gotten responses, but some of the things that are in the new version of TalkBack are things that are specifically requested through the specialized help. And sometimes they're fixed or they come to the app within a week or two. And sometimes it's the next, update, and maybe it's 2 or 3 months later. But the Google side, and they will help you with Samsung phones. The Google side is very responsive. I don't know about Samsung. They used to have excellent accessibility support, but now they don't call you back. You just leave a voicemail and you don't hear anything.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that update, Kevin. I didn't know that it got worse on Samsung side. The website, if you would, I'm just gonna say it's gonna be recorded for you on to find out back on YouTube, but g.co/disability support, and that's how you could get a hold of Google through either email or text, and then the video option would be the Be My Eyes. And I've used it a couple times. It really does help a lot, and they could help you connect with other teams within Google. So from personal experience, I definitely recommend giving Be My Eyes a shot. And it works out for other companies as well, like with Microsoft and things like that too. So it's an Android app. You just get it from the Play Store, and that's the main word difference. App Store is iPhone, Play Store, Android.
Okay, okay.
So you just search exactly like you would, and you would just get the result of, let's say, Google Photos, for example. If you type that in, you get the results, and then you'll have a button that says install, and you go on with your day.
Okay.
This is Sri.
Go ahead.
So Hershey, can I use that to get support for like my YouTube TV?
Yes. Any type of Google product, they pretty much have said that they will support, or as much as they could support. And if not, they might push you to a team member that could. For YouTube TV personally, though, if you go under the help and feedback tab, and try to see if you could start a session through that, because I know that I've done that through a app. I don't recall if it was YouTube TV or just YouTube, playing YouTube, and I was able to get into this like chat with a person, and they try to help me troubleshoot my specific YouTube issue. And so like that's a whole different way of communicating that I found with that. Whereas in the Be My Eyes, someone usually is just looking out with my camera, so it's not necessarily. I guess they could look at your screen on your phone, perhaps with the app, but it's a different way of, I guess, troubleshooting.
This is straight. So it would Be My Eyes. So if you only have one device, let's say you only have one device, and you call them and you call the Google support, how will they troubleshoot?
Normally, you have an option of either having them call you, you could have them text you, email you, or use the app itself. So let's just say you wanted to connect through to somebody, to Google. You could go to the specific specialty help, and then select Google, which is towards the bottom, I believe, or 2 3 icons down. And once you get connected with them, they have the camera in front of you. So what I used it for was like my Nest thermostat. You could even keep your phone placed downwards, but ask them questions about another app or another device. Or I get it that you're saying if you only had one, but you could still connect or have a conversation with somebody. And that's why using the other methods, such as emailing, could be helpful. Like, hey, can you give this a shot and then email me back? Okay, I'll email you back once I try it. And then you still have a ticket open. And then you could figure out how to connect. Either do they need to see their thing or a screen on the computer or YouTube on your TV, for example. So that's a way that they could actually try to help you with that.
So let me get some clarification. So can they screen share when you contact support? If you only had one device, can they see your screen?
I haven't personally used it, but I'll open up the floor here to see if anybody else has had that experience.
This is Joel. I had exactly the same question. If there was if you could screen share through Be My Eyes, or if there's another app that people like for that purpose.
All right, we got a couple questions here back to back. Anybody have some answers to see what would be the best method of screen sharing or an app that if you needed to help somebody, would it be My Eyes, or would it be some other type of app?
This is Kevin.
All right, Kevin.
Most of the time, especially if it's a phone, they have several test devices, Samsung, Google, most likely, and they will try to reproduce the issue most of the time when you're on the phone, but sometimes they'll tell you they're going to test and see, and then they'll get back with you with the results. With other devices, I know that there's probably a screen share or something they can do if you're on a Chromebook. But I think it probably has to go pretty far before they try to like remote into your device, especially if it's a phone. I don't even know if Be My Eyes has that capability, because I think that even with Ira, if you want to do that, you have to go and install another app or something. So I'm not sure about that part. I have like 5 phones, so it's never been an issue. But yeah, so, but I don't know, like for YouTube TV and YouTube and other stuff like that. But I'm sure they probably will remote in on a Chromebook. I know the first thing that Microsoft, like 2 or 3 seconds in, they're already ready to remote in through Be My Eyes. So they do that. But it's on their end, not through Be My Eyes. But I'm not sure about Google. It's never come to that.
Thank you for that answer. I'm kind of in that same boat. Haven't been faced with that.
Sorry, this is Sri. I got one other question.
Sure, go ahead.
So I did a demo on an audiobook, and then someone asked me if there's any resource available for Bard on the Android. Do you guys have any recommendation where I can direct someone to look at some tutorial stuff for it for Bard?
All right. Would anybody have any answers for Shri with using the Bard app or having any kind of material behind it?
This is Kevin. I guess somebody
Go
could
ahead,
make
Kevin.
one. I don't know. I don't know if there is one. There might be one on blind Android users because they do app focus things like that. But I mean, I guess somebody could make one.
Renee, I've never seen a tutorial for it. I use Bard on my Android, but I've never seen a tutorial for it. But they are, I guess, hopefully preparing to update that app. They've been saying that for years, but they are starting some trials to try to be able to use Bard with like smart speakers and stuff like that. So hopefully it won't be as difficult to use in the future. It is really clunky. When I have a problem, I generally call the library and have them help me walk through something. But even when they do that, it's still not very good.
Hey, but at least the library is a good resource, right?
Mhm.
That's good. That's a good point. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Shri. And to kind of, I guess I'll let anybody have any other questions at this point, and then I'll see how to.
I did want to say, I don't know this, Kevin, but I don't know if the people, I don't know where these people come from. The people that do the specialized help for Google. They've been in all different countries and stuff like that. But one option that you do have that does have screen share is Google Meet. So if you're really having trouble, just recommend that they get into a Google Meet session with you. And then you would be able to share screen.
Very good point. I'm gonna even say Zoom and Meet, Google Meet.
Google is not going to use Zoom.
No, I'm just saying like those are the two apps for screen share anyway.
Yeah.
To at least look at somebody else's phone or device. So that's just good points of applications as such that could be used as alternatives to just do a screen share and say, hey, look at this with me, and still be able to collaborate.
Yes.
This is Joel. I was thinking
Joel.
we're forgetting we all have Zoom, and I know Zoom also has a screen share or has screen sharing capability. I've used Zoom to screen share and troubleshoot problems on my desktop, but I've never thought to try to do it on my phone. So that just occurred to me. I thought here we all have this in our hands.
Right, and sometimes it does depend on bandwidth, but it's worth giving a shot and even giving feedback to Zoom and say, hey, look, you guys have the screen share. We use screen readers, and they do have an accessibility department that do listen quite often. So it's definitely good feedback to give to any of these entities just to tighten it up. But I would say Zoom probably is a good way to just do a screen share from it. And Google Meet, I've tried that too, and it's worked. So those are both tried and trial and tried, or however you say it. So. Any other questions, thoughts, Joel, or anybody else?
Hi, this is Joel. I had a quick comment about going kind of backing up to earlier in the session about keyboards. If that's okay, if everybody is done with
Absolutely.
Bard for a minute, or Be
Absolutely.
My Eyes.
Mhm.
And I noticed, so I started, so I'm very new to Android, like within a year, and loving it more and more as I get more comfortable with it. I'm coming from an Apple OS, and when I first launched, I got a Galaxy, a Samsung Galaxy, and I could not find the dictation when I was doing messaging. And so if you're new and you have a Samsung Galaxy phone, it may be set up the same way mine was, where it uses the Samsung keyboard, and the dictation is buried buried a couple of buttons in the dictation. The dictation is very clunky, so it was much better when I switched to the Gboard. Made things much easier for me, but it wasn't set up like that by default. So anyway, if you have a Samsung and you're struggling a little bit doing dictation, like to lay
9:17
out a
p.m.
text
16 notifications.
before you use the keyboard and go back and correct it, you might try the Gboard. I had a lot more success with that. Anyway, so that was my comment about the keyboards. Thanks, and thank you guys very much for setting
Oh,
up these
thank you,
sessions.
Joe.
Fantastic.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and that's a really good point. I mean, that's been my journey being low vision between the two keyboards as well. Dictation just becomes a little bit more easier to communicate and move along with your life faster. So once you have that kind of that place marker, even if you don't have any sight, it to kind of either right around to the middle quarter of the screen, and I have like my dictation button moved all the way to the right, even on my Gboard. So I know it's right above or right below send on the text message, or even if I'm on Discord or other things, I have a little bit of spatialness, or just swiping right. I could figure it out that it's where I needed to be, but the part that becomes a little bit hard to communicate is we have different phones and then different keyboards, and then how do you turn it on? So it's I just, the question to everybody that is on the call tonight is, moving forward, how would you like to learn about things, and what would be some specifics that you would like to learn? Should we take it to the basics of, okay, I need to buy a phone, and why should I get, X to X? Or do we need to take it to, hey, could we work on this app and, do a demo and then ask questions about it? So how would you guys feel personally that you guys want the show to go?
This is Renee, and
Go ahead.
there are some things that you've talked about today that I don't really understand. Like I don't understand what Gboard is. So I mean, some demonstrations of some things would be great for me. Just some basics.
All right, definitely. I'll take that into consideration. Any other things that we
Well,
could think of?
that's a good point. So, this is Joel. That's a good
Go
point.
ahead.
Sorry, I just introduced the feature and didn't explain it. So I apologize for that. Gboard is an alternative pop-up keyboard for different purposes in Android. So with Android, with the iPhone, you're limited to one keyboard, and with the Android, you have some options. And so Gboard is one of those options. It's the keyboard created and maintained by Google.
Joel, I heard an iPhone in here earlier. I don't want to make it mad. Should I clarify? So each operating system has its own keyboard. To just be more succinct with that, something like Google makes Gboard. That's their Google board keyboard, and then um, Microsoft makes its keyboard, which is Swift keyboard. And then you have other keyboards that you could download within the Google platform. Some have offer big text and this, that, the other, but at the end of the day, it's what works the best, and Gboard has shown with dictation, especially, that it's the most accurate. And the thing is you have to switch those keyboards. So depending on your phone brand, so if you had a Samsung phone, you would be dished out the Samsung keyboard, and that's what they want you to use. And so you would have to swap it out. If you got a Pixel phone, just start using it. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to change anything. And so that's kind of the difference between kind of the two brands, or a Android One device with a which includes Motorola and others, to a device like Samsung.
This is Sri.
Go ahead, Tree.
Now, I'm in a different world here, but do you know if you can use an external keyboard and just connect it to your phone and use that if people have difficulty using the virtual keyboard?
You sure can. This is Hershey. I'm using a Logitech mechanical keyboard, and so it has like 3 buttons. So one's for my computer, one's for my phone. You hit the button on the keyboard, and then your phone shows up with the Bluetooth name thing, the keyboard's name, and then it says, "Hey, type this in your keyboard to connect them." So you go into the number pad, type in the 4-digit code, and you're off to the races. You could control your phone with it. You could start typing your text messages, your emails. So, that kind of starts making life easier. Then you're like, okay, I want to get back on my computer because Facebook's better there. Then you hit the other button and you switch over, and life goes on. So it gives you flexibility for sure to connect peripherals like keyboards or braille devices, braille displays.
This is Joel again. I promise I'll shut up pretty soon. I also love my external keyboard with my Samsung Galaxy, and I kind of learned the navigating is a little bit different with a keyboard, and I found that if I slow down and listen, that the talkback will give me some hints about how to navigate my whatever window I'm in. It will tell me what keys I have to press to move around. So at first it was a little disorienting, but when I slowed down a little bit, I realized, oh, okay, well, my talkback is trying very hard to help me.
Absolutely,
And,
great point, Joel. That's the hints, right? You're talking about that gives you little hints of what keystrokes to hit next.
This is Sri.
Go ahead, Sri.
I think Joel made an excellent point there. If you're new to accessibility and screen reading, slow down. These hints are there for a purpose. They're to give us ideas and clues as to what we need to do. I know when I'm teaching class, a lot of people are not listening. They're thinking and not listening. It's kind of like in the classroom. The teacher tells you to listen before you talk. It's the same thing with screen reader. I've learned that if you just pay close attention, lots of information is provided to you, and then those information allows you to make the right decision, whether to do whatever gesture you need to do, or what you need to do. So always just listen, and listen very carefully, because it's giving you a lot of information.
Very, very true. Thank you.
This is Richard.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yes, Sri Hershey is, and it's very good points there to slow down. I mean, again, it's going on a year for me using Android, and when I first got Android, that's why I mentioned before, keep the enthusiasm. It's confusing because keep the enthusiasm, but like Sri said, and slow down. And listen, because I was happy, I'm excited, I'm ready for this. Let me see what this thing can really do because of technology, and I'm going too fast, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even do that. Well, why is it going so fast? Why did it go into this? Why did it go into that? I'm like, it's not only slow your mind down, and you also got to slow your muscle down. You got to watch how fast you're touching, because the screen is sensitive, and it's not just Android. I believe this would be any screen sensitivity. It's you touch it, it's going to go haywire. So get your muscles toned where you get that control of like don't get button happy and like I was, and it stick with it, slow down like Sheree says, and they're talking, listen to it. And if you even have a problem, sometimes on occasion you can even ask the Android itself, just say, hey Google, what's this problem that you're having, and be specific with it, and the Android itself could actually tell you itself what's going on or what the issue is. But and these meetings are awesome to be on. I found myself coming back to them, and I find myself actually like, hey, I know I can help that person, so I speak up. So these meetings are awesome. If there is an issue, we can help you through it again, and keep the enthusiasm, but kind of get your fingers to slow down and kind of get your brain to slow down.
Appreciate that, Mr. Richard. And let's see if I could go through. We were talking about reset earlier on Samsung, and I have a device. I'm gonna turn up the volume. Okay. I'm going to go to settings. Turning up the volume just a little bit.
Button, open settings, out of list.
And all I did is with 2 fingers I swiped down on my screen. I'm going to go to settings by double tapping
Button,
on
open
settings.
Out of list. Settings. General management. Language and keyboard.
Now
date and time,
I'm going to go
22:29,
towards the
inlet,
bottom
software update accessibility. Talk back.
and look
General
for
management. Language
general
and keyboard.
management.
Date and time. General management. Button. Navigate up. Out of
Now
list.
towards
Board settings. 6 of 16.
the bottom of the screen.
Mouse and trackpad. Physical keyboard. Passwords and auto personal dictionary. Reset.
I have reset.
Reset. Button. Navigate. Reset accessibility settings. 3 of 6.
I could reset the accessibility settings here.
Factory data reset. Reset
I could factory data reset.
Default settings. Collect diagnostics. Collect diagnostics
so
data for troubleshooting. 5 of 6.
At this point, if I needed to do that, this is where I would come to on a Samsung phone. On a Pixel device, it's a little bit different, but it's under the word we called system earlier. So next time you have questions like this, feel free to ask us specifically, and hopefully this is not too fast, and we could kind of go through it and answer specifics.
Okay, everybody. I want to say, because we're getting down to our last 2 minutes of the show, and as we said before, you can find this recording on iBugtoday.com under the iBug Android Insight tab. You can also go to YouTube and you will find this recording as well to be able to refer back to as needed. Any wrap up you want to say, Hershey?
Oh man, thank you. This is a lot of fun, and now we know what we wanted to talk about specifics. So I know you and I were talking about it, so we'll get on it 3 weeks from now, right? When's the next show?
Yep. Our next meeting will be guess what? March 15th.
Oh snap!
It's the third Wednesday, so.
Well, I'm so excited to see y'all again. I know we ran out of time. It feels like every time, but.
Yep. Yeah, so just remember that the iBug movie Friday night is JFK. Join in at 7:30 for the social hour. And the movie starts at 8, and it is the same link as you joined in for our iBug Android Insight. Okay?
And thank you, Shree. I know we could see you on the weekend, so look out for Shree. He's another member of here of iBug today.
Yeah. So thank y'all for joining.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all next month.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.